Hi everyone, it's Lauren and welcome to the first day of Vlogmas. I'm not going to be vlogging every single day in December, but I will be aiming to upload a video every other day. And I thought it would be great to start with some festive baking. So today I'm going to be making a Christmas pudding and some mincemeat for mince pies later on. I'm actually filming this at the beginning of November to give the pudding time to mature, but considering this is right at the beginning of December, this is going up, you might still have time to make it if you fancy giving it a go yourself. I'll leave a link to the recipe in the description box below. I kind of did a bit of research on different Christmas pudding recipes and then found an article in The Guardian which compared lots of different ones and came up with the ultimate mix. So I'll talk through any changes I've made as I go and also leave that recipe in the description box. I'll also leave them a recipe for the mincemeat as well if you want to have a go at that. Time to get my pinny on. I wish I had a more Christmassy pinafore, but we have a nice pink one. So I actually started making this yesterday because I had to chop up the fruit and leave it to soak in the brandy overnight. In the recipe it does say sherry, but I wanted to be a bit traditional and do it in brandy. And here is my results. This is 125 grams of currants, 125 grams of sultanas, 100 grams of figs, and 50 grams of apricots, and then 50 grams of candied peel as well. I did just realise this morning that my scales were not on gram measurements, they were on millilitres. So this might be too much fruit, so I might have to re-weigh it out as I add it to the pudding. But that has been soaking all night. It smells amazing. I wish I could taste the brandy, just do a little taste test. So we're going to start by mixing the dry ingredients. That's 75 grams of self-raising flour, 150 grams of soft light brown sugar, which I might have to open a new packet out for this. I don't know if there's going to be enough in here. Whee! 75 grams of brown breadcrumbs, half a teaspoon of allspice, which is actually doesn't fit in the jar. It's very helpful. A pinch of salt. Be quite generous there. Now I require the zest of an orange and a lemon, which might take a bit of time. There we go. Now 50 grams of roughly chopped almonds. I mean, roughly is sort of a matter of opinion. These are probably quite big, but we'll see. And 150 grams of suet. I'm using beef suet because that's the only one I could get, but you can definitely use vegetarian suet if you want to make this vegetarian. This is already so big. I'm really worried that I've obviously checked the measurements. I hope it fits in this pudding basin. Now we're whipping 1 egg in with a tablespoon of black treacle, everyone's favourite. And now we're adding this in with 75 millilitres of milk and 150 millilitres of stout, which was new to me as part of a pudding recipe before. That seems quite non-traditional to me, but we're going to give it a whirl. Ah! Oh no! Oh dear! How that happened? So I got shaken up on the way here. I hope I've got 150 mils left. I hope so. Oh, this tablecloth was a bad choice. It's so fizzy. Ooh, it's fizzing in the bowl even. Alright, let's get this mixed up and out of our way. It does smell very malty, which isn't normally what I expect in a Christmas pudding. I hope everyone likes this recipe. Oh my goodness, otherwise I'll have ruined Christmas. Right, it's time to add the fruit, but I'm going to measure it out again just before I add it in, because I'm supposed to have 450 grams of fruit and candied peel, plus the brandy that it was sitting in. And when I measured this, I think there's like 600 grams or something, so I just want to make very sure that I don't put too much fruit in. So I guess I'm aiming for maybe 500 grams perhaps? I wasn't too far off, I'm glad I measured it. I've got 500 grams now, so hopefully that should work. Let's see what the consistency is like once I've stirred it all in. It doesn't say what the consistency of the mixture should be like in this recipe. It's quite a wet mixture. And the only other time I've made a Christmas pudding is when I helped my mum when I was probably like 6 years old. But my memory of the pudding she makes is it's quite difficult to stir. And this is quite easy. So, I don't know. I don't think it needs any more fruit. But it feels a little bit wet. Just a dribble. Alright, I'm going to grease up this bowl and go with it. See how we do. Now I've got to cover with greaseproof paper and foil, 2 layers of foil because there isn't a lid for this basin, and put a pleat in there so that the steam can rise out of the pudding. Now 2 more layers of foil to make sure that it's watertight. And now I'm giving myself a little handle so that I'm able to get it out of the pot. So we're using this big pan to steam it, and I'm putting a saucer in the bottom to keep the pudding right from the bottom of the pan. Oh, little pudding, in you go. Oh my goodness, it's massive. I hope this works. So I'm supposed to leave that steaming for 4 hours now. Fingers crossed it's all right. I think the water is supposed to come up to like about halfway to the top of the basin. I have to keep checking it and obviously topping up the water in case it boils down. But I mean, it looks quite good. Let's hope it works and hope it tastes nice on the day. So while that's steaming, I'm gonna clean up the kitchen first, but then start on the mincemeat mixture. So the pud is on. The pud is good, I think, just bubbling away there. So I'm going to make the mincemeat now, which is another 2-day job. Basically, there's a lot of ingredients that need to go in it, but I just mix them all in a bowl and then leave it overnight, and then we cook it in the oven tomorrow. Mincemeat always makes me think of in Friends, where Rachel is making the trifle and she puts beef in it, and she talks about like, oh, you know, the British have mincemeat pie. That's like a weird dessert that they have. But mincemeat, if you didn't know, isn't actually meat. It used to be, like years ago, but a lot of poor people couldn't afford meat, so they made this version, which has become the new tradition, which is all lots of fruit, very similar to a Christmas pudding. I'm using a Delia Smith recipe, which I'll again link in the description box below, and it looks like it makes a lot. So I'm going to have jars of the stuff, which is great because I'd like to really practice my mince pies this year, and I should have some that I can leave over for next year as well. So that's fingers crossed. So I'm going to actually use the leftover fruit from the Christmas pudding that I made too much of, and add that in, which is mostly the same. The currants and sultanas and the mixed peel is the same anyway, and this has figs and apricots in it, which is not part of the mincemeat recipe. But you know, I think we can only lift it. So I'm going to use this and take this out of the portion of fruit that I meant to have in this. I'm going to mix the other things together first. The main difference is the Bramley apples. So this is 450 grams of Bramley apple. It's basically 2 apples. I'm actually going to re-measure it now that I've chopped it to make sure it's the right amount. So this is the fresh stuff going in. There's also chopped almonds in this again, although this time it said that the almonds should be chopped into slivers. So I've taken that to mean like a lot finer. Almonds. Whoop. There's more suet in this one, 225 grams of suet. This is quite a lot. 350 grams of dark brown sugar. Ooh, very gingerbready. Now I'm supposed to do 4 level teaspoons of allspice. I actually don't have enough, so I'm going to make up a bit more of my own with cinnamon, ginger and cloves and nutmeg. But you're supposed to put extra cinnamon and nutmeg in this anyway. Like, it says some freshly grated nutmeg, so that should be fine. I'll just do a little bit more of that. 2. So now I'm going to add the fruit, and raisins are not in the pudding recipe, so I'm going to do the full amount of that, which is 350 grams. And I'm going to see how much I've got of this left and take that amount out of the currants and sultanas. So that is, oh my gosh, that's actually quite a lot. 130. So that means I need 160 each of sultanas and currants. So it's looking very fruity. The last things I need is 225 grams of candied peel, which I got whole, and I don't know why I did that. I don't know why I didn't buy a chopped candied peel. So I'm going to need to measure it out and then chop it. And then also the zest and juice of 2 lemons and 2 oranges. So that's the last thing, and then we can cover it and leave it. So that's it, cooking for today is done. The mincemeat is over here, covered in a bowl, resting overnight. And I've just turned off the pudding. It's been in for just over 4 hours. So I guess I should have a check of it. So I'll lift it out and then see. I don't really know what I'm looking for, so I don't know if I'll know if it needs longer. Okay, I think we're good. Oh my goodness. Oh, it's really wet. Oh no. Oh no. Oh, it's all right. It was just like the fat. I think it's the grease that's come out of the suet, and it wasn't actually water. When I checked the baking paper as well, that was all dry. So it was okay. I've just tipped some of the fat away, and we're gonna leave that to set now. I'm so worried. I'm so relieved. At first I was like, I have ruined Christmas. Like, the pudding hasn't worked. What are we gonna do? But it's fine. And I'm gonna wrap it up in some clean foil once it's cooled down, and then we can let it darken in time for Christmas. I was about ready to have a breakdown yesterday when I thought I'd ruined the pudding and it was water. I was like, that was all of those ingredients. It took so much time. It's been on the pan for hours, and I thought, oh my gosh, it's all gone to waste. But it did look like it was just fat, so we've tipped some of the fat away. I don't know if that was the correct thing to do. And it was all cooked and fine underneath. So I think it's good. So I've sealed it up. I think it looks quite smart there, and it's a little pudding basin with the string around it. And that's it. I'm gonna put it away. To be honest, looking at it now that it's in the bowl, this is actually a massive pudding. And obviously we don't really know what's going to happen with Christmas this year. And especially right now when I'm making the pudding, we're not in December yet, so we don't really know what Christmas is going to look like. So although I spent a long time making it, I think if it turns out it's just me and Will, this is going to be huge. So this might be a next year's pudding, but I think they get better over time. So if I can just store it for a year, that'd be exciting. The mincemeat has been in the oven for 3 hours, and when it first came out it was looking very fatty, which it does say in the recipe that's what it's going to look like it's going to look like it's swimming in fat. And over time, over the past few hours, it's taken a long while to cool down, I've been giving it a stir, and the fat has all sort of gone in and congealed and coated the filling, so it's all good. It smells amazing. I haven't actually tried any of it, which I suppose I could do, but I think it'd be better in a pie rather than just straight off the spoon. So now, all I have to do left for the mincemeat is add some brandy, 6 tablespoons of brandy, and I have to put it in jars. So I'm going to be sterilising my jars right now. The amount of mixture that the recipe said that this should make should fill about 5 Kilner jars. I've got 6, and I'm going to sterilise 6 just in case I go over or something. So fingers crossed this works. It's my first time sterilising jars as well. But I need to wash them, dry them, then stick them in these pans, jars and rubber lids separately, boil them up for 10 minutes. And then I think that's it. We're ready to fill them up and leave it till I'm ready to use it. I'm absolutely exhausted. The whole process has taken ages, so long. I feel like there's not been a time when I haven't been like making Christmas food. But we're done. It made about 4 jars of this in the end, which is plenty for this year. I think it'll be interesting to see how far this goes once I start making mince pies. But yeah, fingers crossed I've sterilised it all correctly. Yeah, I don't know what else you can do really. I've followed all the instructions, so we should be good. So I can put that away with the pudding, which again, hopefully is sealed and sealed correctly. So welcome to Vlogmas, I guess. I hope that was a nice introduction. Some Christmassy baking. I will of course be vlogging when I bake my mince pies and everything later on in the month. And I'll see you in a couple of days with my next video. Bye.